Hello and welcome to another Moonstone Monday. In this video I'm going to show you how I built Captain Bamboozle's Wizard Tower. Now this ended up being quite a struggle, so you're not going to see a smooth build, but hopefully there'll be something that you'll learn. I certainly learned while I was doing this build, and I even mutter a few times about buying this build again and maybe redoing it, but spoilers, I think it ended up looking okay. So there's a lesson there as well, maybe, to everything goes through an ugly stage, just ride it out and see what happens in the end. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that maybe it inspires you. Let me know in the comments below if it does, or if you've built this yourself. Hopefully it might help you if you decide to buy this, because there are a couple of bits and pieces that are a little bit odd in the instructions, and certainly I came across those and I can highlight those for you in this video. So yeah, if you're not interested in commenting, that's all good. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again at the end. Now that I've all but finished Fancy Hat's townhouse, I'm going to make Captain Bamboozle's Wizard Tower. Now I'm not entirely sure whether this is actually officially, or used to be officially, for Moonstone or not, but it's a pretty Moonstone style building, I think, so I think this will suit. So we're going to get this out of its plastic wrapping and have a look at the sprues. As with all of these TT Combat buildings, they do not have the instructions printed. They save paper and ink and put them on their website. So you can just basically have that open and refer to that when you need to. The instructions aren't the best. There are better instructions from other companies, but they're good enough, so you should be able to get this build. Now, the same as for Fancy Hats, I'm not going to focus too much on the build of this, because, as I say, there are instructions online, so you shouldn't really need to need to worry about it too much. However, if there's anything that I come across that I feel is a little bit confusing, or maybe that my input might, additional input might help, then I will definitely bring you along for that and talk through any kind of like problem points that I come across. And I'm going to push the boat on this one as well, same as I did for Fancy Hat. I'm going to see whether I can make this really nice, use a few different techniques to that which I used on Fancy Hat's townhouse. But yeah, let's see what this looks like when it's built. So I'm going to go and get those instructions and get started. And like I say, I'll bring you along for pimping, and if there's any kind of confusion in how you actually do the assembly. So right away, I'm at some pimping stages. What I'm going to do is I'm going to seal the floor here with watered down PVA, because I'm going to need to paint that and paint that motif before I put the walls on. And I'm also, here's the walls that go on, I'm also going to paint with PVA the inside walls. So this will just act to seal it, so when I come along with my paint, the PVA will have sealed the MDF, and that will mean that the paint applies much better, doesn't soak in, and gets a better coverage. So I'm going to basically work through all of this. I think I'm going to need to do a lot of painting, potentially even on the sprue. But I don't normally do that, mainly because finding the parts is difficult. But yeah, so I'm gonna work out which bits need to be painted and which bits don't, and get them all painted up like this, and get them all painted with colours. I'm saying paint a lot. And once all of the insides are done, I will then be able to start assembling this, and then I'll be able to do the exterior. And I've got an idea of how that's going to go as well. So the next things that are going to need to be done, sealed, are these three sections, which go there, there, there and there. So I need to have one without a step, I think. And then, yeah, and then 1, 2, 3. And I'll need to have several more, which are from here, which will go around the outside. And that is the walls for the first part of the tower. So what I'll do is seal those now. And I'm going to do this so that the tower can be taken apart, and I might put floors in and what have you. Not totally sure. But yeah, the way that it's designed, I think that this all is supposed to be one piece. But for now I'm going to think about making it so that I think at least the top floor can be taken off. But I'm still going to act as if I'm going to paint the insides, because I might do it so that every floor can be taken off. But we shall see. Bit rambly, bit confused, making some plans. Let's get on. I'll show you what it looks like when I get to the next stage. So how I'm going to do these walls is get some masking tape, mask off, and I'm going to do them striped purple and yellow. Because it's a wizard's tower, and wizards have awesome style sense, obviously. So once these purple bits are dried, obviously what I'll do is I'll put some masking tape over the top of the purple strips, take the other ones off, and then paint them with this bright yellow. So it's quite a simple technique. The end ones are very easy. Just put a line, put one up against each of the little notches, and then one dead down the middle. And then the upright, this is the wall one here. What I'm doing is starting off at one end, like this. And then what I'm actually doing on this one is putting a strip next to each other all the way across, like this. So there we are. And what I'll do now is I will remove some of these strips. So I've got the distance correct, and what I can now do is make use of these ones to mask off here. So there we are. That's how I'm working it. So I'll get this all painted up, and then I'll have a think about how I'm going to do the walls of the inside of the tower. Sorry, another frog in my throat there. And I'm thinking these, because they are done panel to panel, I might be able to just paint the panels. But I'll need to make sure that I get every one correct that I want, so get the correct ones out for this first section and then the correct ones out for the second one. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. Now this is actually going to be not very much painting, because I don't want to paint the back of the door obviously, so I just need to paint up to the door at the top like that. Nice and simple. Right, I'll finish this off, I'll bring you back, let you see what these look like, and also let you see what I've decided to do about the tower walls. As you can see, I've got my purple and my yellow done, and now I can do the very satisfying task of peeling off all the masking tape and reveal what it looks like. And isn't that striking? So I still have a yellow to do down the middle there, and I still have a bit of yellow to do down the middle there, but I might actually do that all purple. Yeah, I'll do some purple there, and then I'm going to have to do the doorway here. But other than that, that's all basically finished. And then I've painted up the correct panels here to do the around the edge of the tower. So what I'll do, I'll get those purple painted, and I'll pop these out. And I also think that one of these, so not this one, which will go here, but this one, which will go here, I think I need to actually duplicate the colours. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I'm going to have a look and see what it's like with the panels first, before I start painting this side, and then I'll get the correct colours going along, and hopefully that will work well. So yeah, pretty happy with how this is going at the moment. Those are the next steps. A little bit of purple there and here, and then work out how I'm going to paint this side. And then the second thing is this motif here, which I need to do. So I need to work out what I'm going to do on that. So we've got two colours around the outside, which could go purple and yellow, and then we've got something in the middle, which I'm not sure what I'll do. So I'm going to think about that. But yeah, good progress, taking it steady. Very happy with what I've got so far. And I have just popped out all of the wall sections because it's a little bit difficult to read the instructions, and it's not very clear which section goes where. For example, I've put a doorway at the bottom, okay, because it makes sense that you'll be able to get into this tower from the bottom, but it's not clear whether I should have done or not. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to separate out each of the wall sections into a floor. I'll then get a bag and put each floor and the wall sections together in the bag, and then I'll be able to work out which colours I want to paint them. Now if you're not painting the interior, then this is far less of an issue, obviously, but if you are, then you really need to paint them in the right way, because I'm doing alternate stripes. I'm going to do different colours for different floors, etc. So yeah, so I'm going to assemble together each of the floors with their wall sections, and then once I've done that, then I can paint each of those wall sections correctly, and then we can start to assemble. And now the other benefit is that with these separated, I'm no longer going to have an issue, if I can find one that's got it, where I get a little bit of bleed across from one colour to the next. And I'm pretty sure that I did have one with an issue. You can see here that's got a little bit of yellow on it. So that will make it much easier to separate the colours. But yeah, we're going to do that. And then I'm going to work out how I'm going to put floors and make these levels separable, because they're not designed to be. So this is going to be a really fun build. Lots and lots of thinking required. And I mean, what you can see immediately is that we have there a section that goes in, so I might be able to glue that in, put some paper over the top, or fill in the gaps somehow, and then that means it's got a solid floor that I can then work with. But as I say, gonna have to be thinking about this. It's not going to be the easiest construction and assembly stage, I can tell you that now. So stick around to see how I solve that. First of all, I'm going to split out all these wall sections and get it all arranged and organised. Right, I think I've got it right. This is not the easiest thing in the world, because the instructions A, don't rotate the tower through them so you can't see all sides, and B, don't have any of the exterior rendering, and the only kind of shapes they really show are these ones here and the windows at the end. So it's a bit tough to work out exactly what's going to go where. However, I think I'm happy enough with it. I think I'm going to leave this door that I did down here as the door down here. The only issue is on this floor I've got a door with some little notches in it. Now you'll find out later I'm going to be rendering the outside of this, so that doesn't really matter, and I am left with one spare, which I think probably should have been used down here, and I think that should have been the spare part. I'm not entirely sure why there's a spare. I can't see where else it will go, but I'm not going to worry too much for now, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to, as I say, put these into the bags and deal with it as I go forwards, and I will double check as I'm building the rest of it, because I'm going to mock up all of this into separate bags, get all the parts together for each level before I do any assembly or gluing, and before I do any more painting, because I might have just flown off the handle a little bit, like I say, by making that. I've even missed out the fact there's a door, so I'm going to need to repaint that at some point shortly. Anyway, pretty happy I've done that process, pretty happy with how that's looking. This is going to be really, really difficult to put together, this one. Right, so as you can see, I've painted on the door for the back of that piece that I accidentally painted all purple before I realised there was a door. I just wanted to try out and test whether my idea was going to work, and I'm going to show you how I did that. So basically, if you can look on the inside, they've not done any of the inside, so it's not obvious where the door is. So what I've done is I've basically taken my pencil, I'm marking in where the archway starts, and then marking in roughly where it ends. And then what you can do, and I'm not very good at this, so this will probably not look very good, but it'll be fine. What you can do then is draw your arch in, like so. And then I've lost my small flat ruler. I don't know where it's gone, so I'm having to use the safety ruler for this. and then just line down the side, and that there is where we're going to be painting the doorway. So I'm going to need to do that on all of my doors, which is quite a few, but I think that works quite nicely, and then we can paint the brown on the inside, and that will work. So once that is dry, I also have that to paint, so I'll paint that now as well. Once both of those are dry, I then will be looking to start assembling this part here, the actual tower, and this is where it's going to get complex, and where I'm going to start to look at the exterior texturing, because what I would like is to be able to to be able to take each of the levels off, as I've said, and so to do that I'm going to need to have it so that these walls are self-supporting, and if we just stick a couple of these in now, you'll see that they really are not self-supporting. Floppy, and not going to hold together. Now the texture I'm going to use, I'm going to be using air dry clay on this to put the bricks in. That's my plan anyway at the moment. That will eventually hold these in place, but of course I need to have these upright and secure before I can even think about applying air dry clay. So ideas at the moment are as simple as some super glue, which might work, maybe a little bit of milliput. Just get a sausage of milliput and push it in between the uprights. That kind of thing is my idea at the moment, but I'm not going to be able to get to that just for a little while, because like I say, I need to do these, and actually of course I need to paint that, which I really should get done, so I'll try and get that done today. I haven't worked out the colours yet, and I'm going to work from one level to the next, so I will get this done, prove my technique on this one, and then move on to the next levels, and hopefully they will go faster because I will know what I'm doing. But yeah, pretty cool. Excited to get onto this. I think it's going to look awesome when it's done. So let's get a crack on. And as you can see, I've painted the motif on the floor. Really pleased with it. Just some purple and yellow, and then shiny black, and then silver in the central piece. So that's worked really well. What I'm looking at doing now is the inside wall. So this is how that sits, and then this is the wall that will go here. So I've gone and looked at the art assets which Goblin King Games sent me very nicely, thank you very much. And what we've got is I've got this art here, which is actually of Diana Enraged, and I'm going to stick that onto the inside of here. So I'm just going to cut this out now, stick it on, and then once it's stuck and dried, I'll cut it out and remove where I don't want to have it showing, so cut down here and down here, but I'll do that after it's glued. So yes, that's what I'm going to do now. That's just been printed out on my laser printer. So yeah, I'll get that cut, get that glued, and then show what it looks like. I'll probably varnish it as well. I might varnish the floor also, but I'm not sure. I think I might leave that, but I'm going to varnish this. So I'll get that glued on, and I'll bring you back when I get to the next step. Well, that has worked out absolutely superbly. I'm just blown away by how good that looks. Thanks again to Goblin King Games for sending me that artwork. It's really helping me with these builds, and I think that really pops. I think the purple and the yellow inside go well accidentally, completely randomly, with the colours of the artwork, and yeah, very pleased. So I'm going to varnish that now. I've just got that all kind of like set in place very carefully, and then we're very nearly ready to stick this first part down, which is very cool, because then I can start working, once this is glued down, I can start working on the tower and getting that done and doing the first attempt at the air dry clay. I need to get a skate on because I want to get this finished relatively soon. Put a bit of a tight deadline on this build. I should probably take a month on it. I'll try and do it in about 10 days. So yeah, I need to get a skate on. So yeah, get that varnished, get that glued down, and the next time we'll be working on getting this tower done, and I do need to decide whether I'm going to put a floor in here or not. I'm not sure at the moment, so that's another thing I need to think about. So much to think about. Let's get to it. Well, I think I said this was going to be a real pain in the backside to do, and it is really proving to be a big pain in the backside. So this is the guide that is supposed to go on top, and I am absolutely incapable of setting this in place, getting it all lined up and getting them all pushed in without throwing all of the wall sections off over and over again. Absolutely incapable. So I've got these squares which as you can see, I've made use of some of the other bases, and to have the bottom of this at the same level as the bottom of the floor. That's why I put these there, so that's totally and utterly square. And making use of these, I am just about able to get these to be completely square, and potentially I'll be able to glue them in place. So yeah, if you're better at doing this when you build it, let me know in the comments. If you're building this kit, if you work out a tip of how to do this. But I can't. This is I'm done. This is my best guess, and this is all I've got. But what I've got to do first, and let me quickly take the camera off of the tripod to show you this. So if I look inside, you can see I'm going to need to paint a little bit more yellow on this. Now that this is all glued together, I've got that end piece I'm going to need to paint. So that's one thing I'm going to need to do first. And the second thing is what I've mentioned a few times. I'm going to need to put a floor in there, and that's going to mean that I'm going to need to paint it and like do things with it, or whatever I'm going to do with that floor. I'm going to need to do something with it before I put these walls in place. These are just set in. So I'm going to get that done now, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to do the same for all of the sections. So it's only two sections, that one and this one, which need an additional floor, because I want these all to be removable, as I've said a few times. Whether that's going to be possible or not, I don't know, but I want it to, I'm going to try. So yeah, we're going to give it a go. So yeah, I'll show you what I do for the floor. That little bit of painting is pretty obvious, just going to put some yellow paint on, a couple of coats, and then once I've done the floor, the inside floor, and I've finished that, then I will glue this together, and I'll report back on how well this idea worked. Here we are. What I've done, and hopefully won't ruin it, is I've stuck my balsa wood with PVA onto each of these. Underneath each of these weights is one of the bases, and then I'm going to be able to paint that, and that'll look like a nice wooden floor, which will work well. The other thing I wanted to show, which I meant to show earlier and forgot, is the way I'm going to do the door. So on the end of this one, can't really move it because it's weighted down. There we are. We've got a doorway here, and obviously when I put my texture on, when I put my air dry clay to do the brick style, I need to be able to do the doorway and cut the air dry clay away so you can still see the doorway. And so before I glue this together, I did something which I've not done in many years. I did a rub drawing. So I rubbed my pencil over the top of it so that I could see the line coming through, and then marked it out. So that I'll be able to cut out and use that as a template. So when I've got my air dry clay on, I'll be able to slap that on there, and I'll be able to cut away the air dry clay and reveal the door again. So there we are. That's a skill you learn at school that you never think you're going to use again, but it's worked well here. So what I will do is I will measure accurately how far from each edge the doorway is so that I can position it correctly as well. So that's the other thing I'll need to do. But there we are. So I'm going to leave those to dry. I'll probably leave those overnight, and then tomorrow I will come along, cut out the shapes I need. It's going to be a little bit of cutting, because I'm going to need to cut not just, hard to show, but not just the notch that the bottom of the not the notch that this sits into, but I'm also going to need to cut a slice so that this can sit down flush. Not explaining that very well. You'll see what I mean when I do the actual video. Anyway, there's a lot of cutting to do. Let's get on. Well, this is working out really well. As you can see, I've got two of these cut out now, and I thought I'd just quickly show you how I'm going about doing the cutting. But yeah, the walls fit in perfectly fine against the fitting perfectly fine there behind the board. And that was what I was trying to say very kind of like badly in the previous clip. I just need to make sure that these walls can actually set in, and they do. So we remove our metal plates. This one is actually going to be the hardest one because it's the biggest. But basically what we're looking at doing is everywhere, all the way around this edge is where we need to cut. So let me zoom in a little bit more on this so you can see a bit easier maybe. So what I'm doing is I'm basically pushing the very sharp knife through, sharp scalpel through each of these sections like this, which doesn't take too long to do. It's actually really easy. I'm very pleased that I tried this because this looks so much better. It's exactly what I'm looking for. So yeah, we do that. So that means that if we pick that up and we can very carefully push the knife through, then when we turn it around, we turn it over even, not around, over. I'll just get this done to these. I'll do most of it off camera. But when we turn it over, you can see that we've got some little divots that are showing up there, which are where we want to do our cutting. And then with my non-safety ruler, don't curse me, but this is just a little bit easier for this, and we're not likely to cut ourselves when we're cutting balsa, because balsa's so soft. Just a bit easier for me to control this one. What we do is we just slice down between the two marks which have been pushed through from the back. And as we work our way around, we'll reveal the edge of these cuts, the edge of these sections, and then we can lift that away. There's a little bit of glue on that bit, and you can see that we're starting to reveal the shape. So I'm going to work around the rest of this and work around the rest of that. It doesn't take very long, and then we'll end up with 3 of these with the floors, and then I'm going to start the fun, which is assembling the first part of the tower using this one as a guide, I believe, or maybe the other one, not sure. But yeah, so yeah, then we'll use this one as a guide, I think, and then we'll I'll bring you along when I come to that. So that will sit on top, kind of like that. There. Now that's interesting. I'm glad I did that. Maybe I need to trim that down a little bit, because that could have been what my problem was. Doesn't feel like that's slotting in very well. Cool. Yeah. Right, so that was out of shot. That was very bad. So this goes on there, and this is not going down on that section. That's where I'm getting my problem. So if I trim these 2 off there, then maybe my whole challenge I've had of actually getting the walls to slot in correctly might go away. That's very good news. Apologies for the bad filming then. I forgot I was zoomed just super far in. But yeah, there we are. Right, onwards. Enough rambling. Let's get to it. Alright, so I did manage to get this on. It was much easier, funnily enough, seeing as I'd done the trimmed out this little tab here. I cut that down, that made it a lot easier, and then I think actually having that extra floor inside, which gave it a little bit of something to push against, kept them a little bit more upright, and that made it easier as well. I did have to come in the top with a sharp knife, with my hobby knife, and guide them in place, and that makes me wonder whether I should have left off gluing and what having all of these holes up, because it would have been much easier if I could have attacked it from both sides. But hey, it is what it is. I managed to get it done. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work on my air dry clay. Now my original plan was to use a roller. I have loads. I have a whole stack of rollers for this, but none of them are going to look like I want it to look. So I'm going to end up doing some hand sculpting on this, but that's fine, it'll be okay. So the first thing to do, I keep my air dry clay in a sealed pot so it doesn't go off once I've finished using it, and I've got a little bit left over. I'm not going to film all of this because it's probably going to take quite a long time, but I'll show you how I'm going to go about doing it. I need to wash that, so I'll get that washed before I start rollering, but I'll quickly explain. I'm going to put air dry clay on here, here and here, and then I'm going to do probably about 2/3 of the way up air dry clay around, and then that will mean that these will get held in place. I'll then be able to take the top off and then finish the rest of it, and that's my plan. Hopefully it's going to work. So I'm going to quickly go and wash this because I was lazy last time, which is very bad. I need to give that a good scrub, and then I'll bring it back and maybe put some music on, and I'll probably do this wall on camera and do the kind of marking and what have you, and then the rest of it I will continue off camera. So yeah, back with some music shortly. So I'm pretty happy with that. As you saw, just used a sculpting tool to get the shape of the bricks in. Put a few cracks in the bricks to mirror what they've got on there, and that's going to work nicely. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to continue around the rest of the building and around the bottom, like I say, of the tower, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Didn't take too long. I will probably try to do this all in one long strip. I think that'll be easy, that'll look better. But if I can't, then I will have to just try and split it, but not on one of these edges. But yeah, so I'm probably gonna do that next, because as you can see, I can hold and maneuver, because I don't want to be smudging what I've done here. So I'm probably going to do the tower next. So maybe I'll bring you back when I finish doing the tower, show what that looks like, and then yeah, it'll be a case of leaving it to go off, and then we'll be able to take this off and then do the second half of the tower. So yeah, I'll be trying to do it so that the join is potentially at this line here, so that it does kind of look like it fits in. Well, I think I said this was going to be a real pain in the backside to do, and it is really proving to be a big pain in the backside. So this is the guide that is supposed to go on top, and I am absolutely incapable of setting this in place, getting it all lined up and getting them all pushed in without throwing all of the wall sections off over and over again. Absolutely incapable. So I've got these squares, which as you can see, I've made use of some of the other bases, and to have the bottom of this at the same level as the bottom of the floor. That's why I put these there, so that's totally and utterly square. And making use of these, I am just about able to get these to be completely square, and potentially I'll be able to glue them in place. So yeah, if you're better at doing this when you build it, let me know in the comments. If you're building this kit, if you work out a tip of how to do this. But I can't. This is I'm done. This is my best guess, and this is all I've got. But what I've got to do first, and let me quickly take the camera off of the tripod to show you this. So if I look inside, you can see I'm going to need to paint a little bit more yellow on this. Now that this is all glued together, I've got that end piece I'm going to need to paint. So that's one thing I'm going to need to do first. And the second thing is what I've mentioned a few times. I'm going to need to put a floor in there, and that's going to mean that I'm going to need to paint it and like do things with it, or whatever I'm going to do with that floor. I'm going to need to do something with it before I put these walls in place. These are just set in. So I'm going to get that done now, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to do the same for all of the sections. So it's only two sections, that one and this one, which need an additional floor, because I want these all to be removable, as I've said a few times. Whether that's going to be possible or not, I don't know, but I want it to, I'm going to try. So yeah, we're going to give it a go. So yeah, I'll show you what I do for the floor. That little bit of painting is pretty obvious. Just going to put some yellow paint on, a couple of coats, and then once I've done the floor, the inside floor, and I've finished that, then I will glue this together, and I'll report back on how well this idea worked. Did any of you spot the obvious mistake I made? So I've had to glue a little bit more of the balsa wood on here, which I will then trim down in the same way and paint in the same way, because of course that was not the line to cut across at. Never mind, doesn't matter. So this has worked really well. I did stop at the end of here. I had to finish up. I had to go back to work, frankly. Oh, got some drilling going on. Apologies for that. Just shut the door. builders are working away, carpeting and tidying up my roof space, and that's them doing a little bit of grinding down of something. So yeah, so I stopped here because I ran out of time. But yeah, it works really well. It looks great. The stairs are in and looking brilliant. And I mean, one of my favourite things I've done ever, I think, is printing that picture and putting that on that end wall. Absolutely superb. So yeah, so I actually came over and realised this mistake because I was about to start mocking out exactly where things are going to go. These walls are going to go, and start thinking about what colours I was going to paint the inside of up here. I still can, fortunately. I'm going to need to come up with some colours, but yeah, I will put this together, work out exactly where I want to have my little peephole things, and that's going to be fun as well when I come to do my air dry clay. I'll have to make sure I do that very, very cleanly and cut around that very cleanly. But yeah, so I'm going to work out my colours, and then it's going to be a repeat process. So this one I will have this one go on top of, and when I am gluing when I'm doing the air dry clay, I will have set this on top, and that will hold it in place. And then this one will get this set on top, which will hold it in place. And then this one, I don't know, I think there might be a ring, I'm not sure. I mean, if there's a ring that's just a ring, then that might even be better for all of them, because all of these now are going to be looking the same. Yeah, maybe. So yeah, so it's just going to be a repeated process. So I probably won't film very much more of this specific work in terms of how I'm doing the air dry clay and how I'm building up, how I'm holding it in place, because it's going to be the same thing. But yeah, if anything happens or anything interesting occurs, then I will turn the camera on, obviously. But otherwise, more of the same. Get these tower sections done, and then I'll bring it back for when I come to do the painting and any other pimping up that I decide to do on this build. But yeah, probably won't be very much more to show. Hopefully, fingers crossed, if everything goes well, this will be nearly at the end of the video. Well, these are looking great. It's worked out really, really well how I've been doing this. And yeah, I've managed to get them so that I can put the layers on and off well enough without it being too much of a pain. Now, what I'll probably end up doing, because I want these to be a little bit easier to remove, having so many tabs is probably a little bit too much, a little bit overkill. And so what I'll probably end up doing is snipping off all but 3 and having it so it's a bit easier to kind of like put the top on and off when I'm assembling the tower and when I'm taking it apart. However, I don't need to worry about that for now, because I can do that right at the very end. I have realised I did make one mistake here, which is I should have put another beam here, and I'm going to have to carve out the air dry clay to fit it in, which is a bit annoying, but yeah, it is what it is. It doesn't really matter that much. There is one other thing which could cause this to be a little bit challenging, which is which is these here. I'm not entirely sure what they fit into, those little holes there, but we'll come across that, I'm sure, at some point. So the next thing for me to do is to assemble the final layer. Now, the final layer is going to be the hardest one for me to do. This was fiddly enough carving out the little arrow holes, and as you can see, I haven't done it perfectly, but it's certainly going to be good enough for what I'm aiming for. But the final layer has lots and lots of windows, and I may do I may have to do it slightly differently. I may have to do it with very small strips of air dry clay and smoothing it into place, rather than rolling it flat as a large sheet and then cutting the sections out, which is what I've done here. I will also be starting to paint these very soon. So my thinking on this, I've got 2 thoughts. One is a simple one, which is prime it all black and then dry brush it with greys and what have you. The other one is prime it all grey, come along with different colours, and then washes over the top. And I think I'm going to do that to make it a little bit more interesting. I also need to decide how I'm going to paint the stairs, and I'm going to need to paint these little kind of like, I'm going to do them tiled, so I'm going to do them shiny as well, again like I did for the inside of Fancy Hat's townhouse. These are going to be tiles basically, so I need to paint those as well. So there's going to be a few things to do before I show this next, but I think the most important one is going to be deciding on the colour for interior colours for the top level, getting those painted and getting that assembled, and then yeah, we can really start to see this come to life. Well, the last section of the tower has been assembled. Take those weights off, and as you can see, I painted it dark red with white where the doors are. And the difference for this one is that it has these awesome separate sections which are really good, and that may not be a bad idea for you if you're following along roughly with what I'm doing. To make use of these, just don't glue them in place when you're putting together and assembling your other sections. So everything now is pretty much nearly ready for painting the outside. What I need to do is finish off and do the air dry clay around the outside of this one. Like I said in the previous video, I think I'm going to need to just make very thin strips, try to join it together as well as I can. It's going to be very, very fiddly. I've got all sorts of supports. So I've got these, which is where there's like a little kind of like a canopy that goes over the doors and those windows. So yeah, it's going to be a bit fiddly. So I'll probably get the canopy in next. The canopy supports in next, let that dry, and then start fettling around with the air dry clay and see if I can get that finished. But it definitely needs to be air dry clayed, or at least textured in some way. I've also been working on the roof. So I've somehow managed to lose 2 of these little notches in the bottom, which is a bit of a shame, but is what it is. So maybe I'll find them, but I'll keep looking for them. But yeah, so I'm missing 2 notches, but that will eventually sit on there. So that's pretty cool. And I have assembled the spire and I've spray painted it gold, but that's downstairs at the moment, so that's not here. So yeah, coming on really nicely. As I said, finish this bit of the tower, and then we'll start painting the stones. The only other thing to show is that I have painted up the roof sections, and I've gone for green in this case. So we'll have nice bright green roofs. It's going to be really, really colourful. Very happy with this. I'll bring you back when I get to the next step. For this one, I've gone a different route, decided to go a different route. It's going to be slightly slower, but it's going to be more accurate. So what I'm doing is I'm cutting out individual bricks from thinly rolled air dry clay, like so. And then what I'll be able to do is position them in place and cut them and shape them individually around all of the complex shapes that we're dealing with here, and so that should end up with a nice result. Now I'm not totally sure how I'm going to do the grout in between the bricks. I do seem to recall seeing a video ages ago, years ago, where someone did something similar to that, so I'll probably go and look on YouTube, try and find that video, and then if I do find it, then I'll link it when I use the technique. I just can't exactly remember who it was, but yeah, basically someone filling in grout. So I'm sure I'll find it, and I will link and share who did it and where the idea came from. But that's not going to be for a little while. I haven't got all that much time right now, so I'm just making a batch of these bricks, and then what I'll do is I have my PVA already out on my plate, and I will paint the back of each brick and then put them in place. The main thing that I'm looking at doing is filling up the gaps between the panels, because there is daylight through them, which isn't ideal really. You can see through them. Don't know how well that's picking up on the camera. So that's the main reason for doing this. Otherwise, if these were more joined together, then I may not bother. But yeah, I'm pleased with how the others look. I'm really happy. But I think this is the only way I'm going to be able to do this top level. You can see I've also stuck on the grey plastic kind of like designs that go around the windows, and I've also got the supports in place as well. So we're ready on this one now to start gluing on these bricks. So I'll get a few done and then come back and show you how it looks and show you how it's working. But for now, I'm just going to slice a few more of these up and then start getting them stuck on. So yeah, we'll be back in a bit to show you the next step. Well, this has worked absolutely brilliantly, and I really wish I'd done it like this for all of the floors now. But you live and learn. So yeah, it's very, very simple. Take that very thin They're rolled out very thin, cut out the shapes, put some PVA onto the wood, and then slot the bits of air dry clay on. I've left this 24 hours and it has dried nicely, and it's just such a nicer result. If I put that next to, for example, I'll zoom that out a little bit, put that next to, for example, this one, you can see that the result is just so much better. But hey, you live and learn. The problem is this is going to mean that the actual end of this tower is not going to be as good as I want it to, and I'm not as excited as I was, because now I'm looking at it, I'm feeling a little bit disappointed, which is a shame. So what might happen, I mean, that's just one of those things. You have an idea late in the process when you've already started working and you come up with a better technique and it's too late to change. That does happen, and it is just a learning curve. But it is still a bit frustrating. I'm going to do my absolute best to make this look as good as I can, but it certainly isn't going to look as good as it could have done. And it might be that I pick up another one of these and do a different technique. I'm particularly disappointed because I absolutely love the entrance hall that I did, the purple and yellow. However, I have Ian Haygreen has made a point to say that don't just paint this tower grey. They almost certainly, and particularly this one, which is actively occupied by an awesome wizard, would paint the exterior, which is interesting. And I wonder whether they plaster the exterior. So whether I even need to do these bricks at all. You see what I mean? All these brilliant ideas that come later in the project after you've been working on it. So I might buy another one of these eventually, at some point, not soon, and bring it back to the channel and build it again, and take all the learnings after I've learned in this process, and just end up with a better tower, which I might do, we'll see. But for now, I'm going to cut more of these brick shapes and just do the last little section. As you can see, I almost got it finished, but I didn't quite, I just ran out of time, didn't quite get it done. So I'm going to get the rest of these panels done, and then when that's dried, then we're going to be able to finally start painting the exterior, which I'm pretty excited about. I have some ideas on colours. It's going to be striking, let's put it that way. I'm ready for this to be finished now. I'm not quite as disappointed as I was yesterday, but I'm still a bit disappointed. And I'm certainly going to buy another one. So what I've done now is I've painted the wall doors and I've painted these little bits of framing. And what I'm now going to do is, I have got a plan on this, but I'm going to come along and I'm going to paint the whole of the tower and all the brickwork in a dark grey. So this is my dark grey. I'm not going to paint it black, I'm just going to paint it dark grey. So I get that done, and after that I've got a lovely plummy purple that I'm going to paint, nice dark purple that I'm going to paint over the top, and then it's going to be working on these walkways, finishing off the roofs, and then the whole thing will be done. Thank goodness. Like I say, just getting a little bit jaded with it, mainly because I wasn't very happy with how the walls have turned out. But someone, it was Ian, said sometimes you just live and learn, don't you? Yeah, you have to try things to know they're not going to work. I think that there is a technique in here somewhere, but I need to execute it correctly. I think that's more the issue. Right, so I'm going to get this done. It won't take me very long. Slap the grey paint over, and the good thing with air dry clay is it sucks your paint in, so you do end up dry quick, so you can do your second coat very quickly. Once I've got this all done and undercoated, I'll bring you back for when I'm going to do the main colour, which is going to look awesome. Still haven't decided what I'm going to do with these stairs actually. Should probably think about that a bit as well. Anyway, I'll get this painted, I'll start nattering, just muttering to myself. Like I said, I'm not massively happy with this project, but hey, you can't win them all. I was super happy with the townhouse, so having a slightly less successful one now isn't the end of the world. Still looks, I think it's still going to look okay. But yeah, there we are. Well, I'll bring you back when I get that done. Well, that painted up quite nicely. So what I'm going to do now is probably ruin it. So I've got this lovely plum colour. And the reason why I put the grey in is just to give it a undercoat, so I don't have to work quite so hard as I did on that one to cover it all up. I don't mind if there's a few gaps and a few bits now, because it just shows through the grey, which gives it a little bit more interest. But yeah, we're going to slap that over. And isn't that an awesome colour? This might save it, we'll see. Right, so I'll get this done and then we'll look at, I'm going to try and do some weathering on this as well. I had a few comments on the last video, very accurately. One thing that I'm not so good at is weathering. I like clean results basically, and I panic about destroying what I worked on by over weathering. But I should be able to weather this quite nicely, and hopefully I'll give it a go. I think, I'm not sure, we'll see how I feel. Right now the risk of completely destroying the project is so low because it hasn't gone as well as I wanted to, that this might not be a bad one to actually focus on and try and do some weathering. But as you can see, this painting is not going to take me very long. That's one of them done. I'll get the rest done and bring you back when I get to it. One other thing to mention actually, really struggling with this spire here. This has been a quite difficult project to put together. I started to put on the roof. Started to put the roof on, as you can see here from where I've had to tear it off. And what I found was that I'd made a mistake. These were not flat, so they were all of these kind of uprights were in an angle, tilting up. So they were in with their like noses in, but their back sides were swinging in the air, which isn't good. So so I've had to redo that, take that all apart and re-glue it. I think it looks a lot better now, but just bear that in mind when you're assembling that you need to make absolutely sure that you have each of these flat and flush to the base. It's very easy to put it in and accidentally leave them tilted, which will annoy you. Right, I'll get the rest of this painting done and then we'll have another look and see what's next. I've painted and just detailed these stairs, just painted them matte black, and then I've just used my white chocolate and a fine brush to make it look a little bit like marble. What I've also done is used some spray paint to spray the sides of all of the railings silver, which I think is going to look great. And what I'm going to do now is put them on and glue them in place like that. So it's very, very simple to get that done. And then we are finally slowly getting towards the end of this. I'm pleased that I've kept this going. Got quite deflated at points in this project with how particularly that ceiling, sorry, the walls ended up doing with the air dry clay. Didn't work out like I wanted to, and by the time it was too late to change it. But yeah, it is what it is. Live and learn, and I might have a better idea of how to do this in the future. Right, I'm going to stop now because it's really hard to do this and keep it on camera, particularly because some of these have paint on and that's making them a bit big. But yeah, so I've got all those, and then I've got these ones which are eventually going to be able to go on here, but I haven't yet finished painting the grids. As you can see, I have painted around the edge and also done the cross pieces, and what I'm going to do now is paint in the middle a colour, I don't know what. Oh, I've missed one there. There we are, missed one there. So I can do that very quickly. So yes, I'm going to paint these squares a colour and then varnish them, and after I've done that then I'll put these railings on, but I'm going to get the stairs done so I can see what that looks like. But yeah, it's coming on. I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty pleased with that purple, and really pleased with the interior. The interior has just like gone superbly, particularly that picture inside there. It's just the walls didn't end up doing what I wanted to. Anyway, onwards. Well, these are really coming on. The varnish is dry and that looks great. It's really glistening nicely like tiles. So the next thing I need to do, I've got a little bit of touching up to do on the doors. I need to paint the surrounds for the windows. You can see just how much touching up is needed to do on that door. So paint the surrounds on the windows, and then I'll get the sides stuck on, the railings stuck on onto these. Now the railings are stuck on this, and that's looking superb. I also varnished on the steps. So yeah, it's starting to come together now. I'm feeling a little bit happier about it. I really was quite down on this project for a while. I've also started to do the roof here. I needed a lot of clamps. I'm wondering whether it might be super glue for the others, but I'm not sure. But that's coming on nicely as well now. So I did need a lot of clamps to hold them on. That was done last night with PVA, so that should now all be set and secure. So there we are. Looks nice. I will do a little bit more, do some painting, put the sides on, and then we're going to be very nearly finished on this project. Well, this roof is actually proven to be a little bit of a pain. I'm starting to run out of ways to clamp them down. I'm very glad that I've got these, and as you can see, the way I've done it is I've extended the little boot, and that's meant that they've actually stayed in and have been able to grip it, but without that little boot that would not have worked. I'm wondering if I'm going to actually be going down to elastic bands for the next section. I've only got 2 more layers to go, thankfully, so I will show you how I secure the next 2 layers, but I'm going to leave those to dry for a fair amount of time because I don't want them to pop off, and they kept popping off, which was really annoying. But this is pretty much the last thing I think I need to do on the build, so thank goodness for that. I've had some really nice feedback and some very lovely comments, but I'm still not really feeling the love for it just because I think it looks a bit rough and ready, and I don't like that. I like things to look well done. But anyway, you know, you can't win them all, and this is a learning curve and learning process, and that's all I've got to say. Well, there we are. I have a little bit more to do. As I've set this up, I've realised that I've still not touched up the wooden doors, so I'll get that done, but that won't take long. But I managed to get the roof done. The top bits I ended up using super glue. This bit ended up drying in fine after my last clip, so that wasn't a problem. But yeah, I think that looks much better than I thought it was going to. I got really down on myself with the wall effects, but I think actually it does tie together really nicely. There are some touches I really like I particularly like the silver and the orange and the black, and then as per usual all the interiors. I'm pretty happy with the interiors, particularly the interior inside here with the awesome picture wall at the end. I think that looks great. So yeah, I'll get some pictures for that. I'll finish up the wood doors, and then I think I'm going to call this done. Well, I just about declared this done, and then I realised no, it's not done, because what I want to do is snip off some of these little tabs just to make it a bit easier to put the layers on and take the layers off. So what I'm thinking about doing is initially cutting off every other one like this, just using a pair of side cutters, and see how that goes. And if that is enough, then I'll leave it at that, and if I need to cut more off I will. But I just don't want it to be a fight, and it's been a bit of a fight getting these on and off. So let's see whether that's going to be sufficient. So just to demonstrate, this one I forced on, and it is, actually it wasn't too bad taking it off. That's because it wasn't fully on, because it was too difficult to put on. So this one lines up nicely there, and let's see, still a bit difficult, but it's certainly easier than it was. So yeah, so I'm going to take half off all the way around and see how that goes, and then hopefully that will be this project done. So there you are. As you heard through the video, I really was feeling quite down about this build, but by the end of it I'm happy enough, and now it's been a week or so since I finished it. I don't feel quite so horrendously bad about how it looks. I've learned a lot. I certainly won't be doing exactly the same method for the bricks as I did this time. I did briefly consider doing cardboard bricks, and that maybe would have been a better idea thinking about it, but hey, as I say, it is a learning process, and it's really fun to bring you guys along and girls along who watch my videos, so you can see the mistakes I make and maybe give me some ideas with your comments, and maybe it can also inspire and encourage you to give it a go, because hey, it's all about having fun, isn't it? So thanks very much for watching. Really hope you appreciate it. If you made it this far, that's really awesome. And yeah, I wrap up by saying, as I always do in all of my videos, to everyone, please do stay healthy, stay safe, and stay well.